Welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love talking about cards.
So we are spending a little bit of time talking about the guarded cards. We had a viewer reach out to us and said, hey guys, could you talk about some of the guarded cards in the game? And now that the Arid Mithrin cycle is over and we've seen probably the I would guess the bulk of guarded cards, there may release one or two in the future, but we probably have the most of the guarded cards out. We decided to say, sure, let's take a look at all the guarded cards and all the cards that kind of relate to the guarded cards, including Bilbo and the King's Return. And so in this episode, Grant, which guarded card are we going to be talking about?
We are going back to the wilds of Ravanian, and we are talking about the one-cost neutral attachment, the Necklace of Girion, which is guarded enemy or location, attached to a hero. Attached hero gets +2 willpower and collects an additional resource during the resource phase.
Whew. Okay, well...
And it's an artifact and item.
It's an artifact and item. Right, yeah. So, and it's one cost neutral. So I actually, here, I'll guide. I won't say my opinions right yet. So what do you think about it being a neutral card, Grant?
I like it. It means it's more versatile and can go into a lot more decks. I've played this card a fair few times, and so has my partner. And it's probably almost a staple in at least some of my decks.
Yeah. And Ted, what do you think about it being a neutral guarded card?
Definitely one of its strengths.
Yeah,
for sure. Because its effect is we'll get into its effect here, I'm sure, in a second. But its effect, essentially, its big effect is the resource acceleration, which usually is a leadership. Generally, a sphere kind of function with other abilities like Spirit Arwen, who generates resources. So this card being a neutral allows you to get its effect across all the spheres, which you don't always have.
Right. And, well, I love the fact that it's neutral for that exact reason. Like, you can slot it into any deck, and I find that it's powerful in any deck. And again, we had this conversation in one of our other shows about whether it scales, versus 1 player versus 4 player. So we may not have to have that discussion again, but I think, in a 1 player game to get a +2 willpower boost and get that extra resource is phenomenal, and it can go on to anybody. Well, it has to go on a hero, but it can go on to any traded hero, any hero from any sphere. It can go wherever. So, and I love that. So, I don't know. What about the guarded? And this is the first one we've done that's been guarded enemy or location. It's either or. So, what's our thoughts of that whole thing? Ted?
Well, David, guarded cards are always going to be a bit of a gamble for me. I'm a little biased, and this one being an enemy or location, you don't know which one you're going to get, and it can be tough. In certain scenarios, have really big bad trolls or big bad orcs. Because there's a big difference. Like if it pulls an enemy for you, there's a difference between a like a goblin swordsman from the Moria cycle who's got 3 attack and 3 hit points versus like a hill troll, right? Like those are 2 very different enemies that you might have to potentially fight. But then also it could be a location. So for its effect, it's a strong effect for the cost. So fighting either one of those to get the effect is fair.
Okay, so what do you think, Grant?
You see, it all comes back to timing. For me, I don't always put it out straight away. I may leave it in my hand 2 or 3 rounds before I put it out. It all depends on what's going on in the staging area, what quest I'm doing. If I'm going into a quest blind, then I'll 9 times out of 10 leave it a couple of rounds and see what's coming. If I know the quest, then it's all depending on what's in the staging area at that point in time. The ability of that +2 willpower is phenomenal. I've used this, like I say, in quite a few of my decks, and the extra resource goes a long way. I generally put this on Yagon in my Grimbiorn deck, so that way he's questing for 4 and got 2 resources per round, sometimes even 3 with Theodred, to help pump out those allies cheaper after questing successfully. So it is a very potent and powerful ability once it gets going.
Yeah, and I think that this card has to be... I feel like this is one of those early to mid-game cards. If you're getting this late game, I think you're getting it at the wrong time. Because at the late game, you already know that you're going to win, and it's just win more, or you know that you're sinking already and it's not going to help you out. So I think that this has to be a card that you do early to mid-game in order to get the most out of it. That +2 willpower is huge. It's a Celebrian stone, right?
Yeah,
and then
early on, very helpful.
Yeah, totally. So I think that this attachment just fits into a lot of decks nicely. I just really like the way that it goes. Not as much as I love the Arkenstone, but the Arkenstone to me is a total win. But this card is definitely a nice card to slot in there with the Arkenstone. And this isn't restricted. It doesn't exhaust to use its ability. Not that you can use it twice around anyways. It's an artifact, so that Ring of Barahir thing that I've been talking about, you get
what are the keywords again? It's artifact. Is it also item?
It's also an item. Yep. So you can once you get it out, you can zip it around with Long Lake Trade. I think the Long Lake Trader only trades items.
Yeah, certain I think there are certain quest mechanics. There's only a few quests that will target items, and certain other cards in the game are artifacts only and not items. But I think those are limited to maybe like the Rings of Power is what I'm thinking of, like Nenya, Vilya, those kinds of cards. So if it was artifact only, it would be better because then it would be immune to some of those things that target items. But
right,
it's still good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I don't know. So I guess I'll ask the question to Grant, since he's probably played this a bunch. Grant, what decks other than your Grimbiorn deck does this card go into?
Well, I've put it in my partner's dwarf deck because she likes the high willpower and the infinite resource acceleration that she gets going with it. I've also put it into my Elrond deck, which is literally just Elrond in Spirit Glorfindel that pulls out a huge amount of allies, unique allies, and with the Arkenstone as well in there. So it gets the willpower boost from the necklace plus the willpower boost from the Arkenstone, and it just continues to build.
Yeah, quite potent.
This could go into a dwarf mining deck.
It could go into any deck.
It could go. Yeah. I just don't see that this card can't fit into a deck.
Yeah,
provided that you can.
I would say
get the guarded card.
Yeah, any deck where if you want to get more consistent resource acceleration, there are heroes and other cards that do that. It's like Steward, obviously, a couple leadership heroes from the core, like Gloin and Theodred, give you resources, like through their abilities. Hero Arwen, for example. But outside of like all the leadership cards that do it, I think this is a really great tool for the other three spheres. For tactics, lore, and spirit,
right. Especially tactics, because tactics struggles with questing all the time.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't if you have a specific build. So if you use Theoden, Eowyn, and who's the other one? You can get like 11 starting willpower. So I mean, you can get up there with tactics, but it takes a specific set of heroes. This necklace can mitigate needing to start with a specific set of heroes in a tactics deck, and it's probably most able to take out the enemy if it ends up having to be a guarded enemy. So I think that the necklace is well suited for a mono tactics deck.
Yeah, you actually see this so helpful, right? These conversations, these episodes really spawn ideas. You know what? Tactics Eowyn seems to be a good fit when you're playing guarded cards. Because if you get one that's an enemy, you can just do her party trick, right? Tactics Eowyn can. That's how I call her ability.
Yeah, that's great.
She does a cool party trick.
She does.
And
she does it once per party.
Yeah, and you're like, oh man, instead of getting a tiny goblin, I got this big troll.
Right.
She can use her ability to just free that card, assuming you can at least defend against the attack.
Right. And then you have +2 willpower with the golden shield. She's now defending for 7 or something like that, right? Like
the +2 willpower, yeah, very, very strong for a Rohan character with golden shield. It's really great. Or you could put it on a Sylvan or Noldor character to boost their willpower, and then if you play, so I guess a 3-card combo is Necklace, Sylvan, Noldor, a Fair and Perilous,
right? Which
is the spirit event that lets you boost your attack based on your own willpower.
Right.
So you put this on Spirit Glorfindel, who becomes 5. You Fair and Perilous to add 5 willpower to your 3 attack. He attacks for 8.
Yeah, that's
pretty
good. Yeah, that's okay. That's a good party trick.
And even without that card, he's still questing for 5, and then with Light of Valinor, if you have that out, and then attacking for 3. Like,
right.
A lot of great.
Right. So, Ted, have we convinced you to play solo so you can play some of these guarded cards?
I think they're most
you need to play solo to play guarded cards.
Yeah, Grant's right.
Okay.
Even though I think multiplayer, I'll really struggle. Like I wouldn't ever want to, because in multiplayer, you're already struggling against location lock and blocking attacks because people's threat is all over the board.
Right.
I think low player count is better in general for guarded cards, but if you're playing guarded cards, you're probably putting in things in your deck to help you get them.
Right. And there's a couple of things. If it's a guarded location, you can put in the Mariner's Compass. If it's guarded, if it's an enemy that's guarding it, you can put off Pursuit, or what is it, the Great Hunt. There's a couple of things that get rid of cards immediately.
Gandalf.
Sneak Attack Gandalf can free up some
enemies.
Stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's tricks you could use to free up the guarded cards without having, But I don't know if you're going to use all those tricks. Plus, you can't ignore Bilbo, and
absolutely,
Bilbo is phenomenal with these guarded cards. So,
if you get an enemy with Tactics Bilbo and it happens to be higher threat, because your deck is geared towards lower threat, he could free it up. I don't know, with his ability in 2 turns, if the average enemy has
4 hit points.
4 hit points.
Yep. And then you can always do 11Zs and Late Adventurer and Hobbit Pony to do that multiple times a turn and deal 4 damage, 5 damage, 6 damage a turn, and then that gets into the...
Yeah, all that stuff surrounding guarded cards aside, that'll apply to pretty much every episode we do.
Right. Yeah.
Specific to the necklace, though, the stuff you guys mentioned, and I think it's a good tool for non-leadership especially, but can still go in leadership decks, of course.
Yeah.
For even more resources.
Right. Yeah. And then you put the Song of Hope.
Or in multiplayer, if one person's playing Steward, someone else can play the necklace.
Right.
And then you both get resource, acceleration.
Right. And then somebody's playing King of Dale or something, as resource acceleration
it's another
all the way around.
Unique card to spread around. Exactly. So
Right.
that's always great for the card pool to have those.
Yep. Well, should we ring this guy?
We may as well.
Okie doke. So if anybody's new or forgets how we do this, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we rate these cards on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 is the one card to rule them all, and if it's a 10, we chuck that card back into the fiery chasm from whence it was made. So, Ted, you want to lead us off here?
Well, it's a necklace, so I was really curious to how many physical rings this necklace had on it that made up the chain.
Right.
But if you look up the artwork, it's actually more like one solid piece.
Right.
Sort of like of gold, and then it's got these like ornate. It looks like it's got hundreds of emeralds, green as glass.
500 emeralds to be exact.
Ooh, 500 emerald. All right, so I'll give it 500 emeralds.
You stole me, Duke.
Does that go into the? I don't know.
I'm gonna do that for every card.
How does that go into the spreadsheet, Grant? Is it 500E? I don't know.
Of the guarded cards, I'll give this one a 5. I mean, if you want to resource accelerate, it does it for 1 resource. You got to free it up, but it can give resources when you need them.
Yeah. Okay, so 5 for this from Ted. So the mithril shirt, I think you rated a 6, though. Anyways,
yeah.
Oh, okay. You're coming around, Ted. You're getting there.
I'm listening to some of the things that you guys have also mentioned that is changing my perspective.
Okay.
The willpower boost applying to Shield of Rohan, like that attributes to its strength very much so.
Yeah. Yep. Grant, what do you think?
I'll give it a 2 rings.
2? 2?
Yeah.
Ted,
Yes.
did you hear that? That's 2.
It is very versatile. It can go into all sorts of decks. It's not limited. You're paying 1 for an extra resource a turn. That's basically secrecy, resourceful plus Calabrian stone. There's a total of 6 resources if you're paying full price for them, or 3 resources with secrecy. It's an all-round great card. Yes, you may get an enemy or a location with it.
Yeah, you may get a hill troll, which may kill your hero.
Yeah,
but
it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
And I just think it's an all-round great card. David, how about yourself?
When I look at these cards, I say, well, how much am I feeling like I want to play this card? And so what I know is that I've been playing this card since it was released. I think it's great resource acceleration. I think it's great willpower acceleration. So I'm going to give this card a 3. I can't go down to the 2 spot, but I can give it a 3 because I think it's a pretty good guarded card. So join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Everybody, have a great day. And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018 at gmail.com.